Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Truth, lies.
Welcome to Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans. My name is Neo. Tonight we have with us East.
And everybody, thank you for tuning in.
And we have Lizzie.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. I did my hair for y'all finally, so let's have a good show.
And back for a second time on the show. First time as a host, we have D.
Hey, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Yay.
For those that don't remember, Dr. D joined us a while back talking about bullying. She wrote a book on anti-bullying. So, Dr. D, tell everyone that the name of that book again.
Okay, so the name of the book is Brianna and the Bully Buster Brigade. Say that fast 3 times.
Brianna.
It's a tongue twister, but kids love that. But it's Brianna and the Bully Buster Brigade. So it's a tale about bullying and bully busting.
All right.
And it's found on Amazon. So just type my name in.
Pick that up, Dr. D.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, $10 on Amazon. It'll change your life.
All right. So let's tell you all about Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans. It's really about us sharing our truth with you and then calling out all those lies out there and then pointing out those shenanigans going on. And then we have a little fun with some shenanigans of our own as well. So we have a really great show ahead. We're going to be talking about the relationship between gun culture and police brutality. It's one of our viewer questions, a new segment we have. And then the loss of resource officers. And we're going to talk some insecure and we're going to talk a bunch more. Should be a fun show. Remember, there's a reason we do our show live. It's because we want to talk with you and not just to you. So make sure you're posting those comments so we can join in the conversation. You can also go on Twitter at TLS Live Show, and you can post there, and you'll actually see the posts and comments above my head. So we're going to go ahead and start it out. Oh, by the way, if you're on one of those watch parties, make sure you leave the watch party and then join directly so we can actually see your comments here. All right, we know we have one rule. East, why don't you tell them what the rule is? What the rules
All
are?
right, real quick.
All right.
The one rule that we have on the show, no cursing.
No cursing.
Unfortunately for Lizzie, no cursing.
Yeah, let's see the scoreboard. Let's see.
And they're great.
Oh.
Fell in love.
So did you know the Jam grabbed a new
Wow.
one? We've got to add Z to this. Dr. D, you become a regular. We're gonna have to add you to it too.
Okay.
All right.
But you can see
So-
who has the foul mouth, right?
Wow.
As depicted, if you drop a curse word on the show, $10 go in the pot. The second time,
What?
an additional $10.
Yep.
The third time you curse on the show, you have to write what Jam calls Kellyanne, a lovely presentation to 45 on all social media.
Whoa.
Yep.
You got to rate
Oh.
something to 45.
Yep. You gotta show him some love.
And it has to stay on your social media, all your platforms for 24 hours.
Ooh.
3 in a row. Yeah. Lizzie almost
Right.
came
That's
close
rough.
one show. She almost came close one.
That's rough.
For the show, no cheating, because they definitely cheat with these stats and numbers for the number of time I heard.
Don't listen to her.
So,
I was, you know what, Liz, and see, sisters, we got to stick together. And I was thinking, like, I mean, is this really fair? I mean, really?
no.
What's it
I-
sisters and brothers and
I mean, are we being oppressed as women? Like, I mean, come on.
Oh,
all right, Karen.
sisterhood, yes.
Right. I mean, we got to stick together. I call foul on those numbers. I do. I don't even believe it.
All right. So look, we have an initiation for you, Dr. D. So
Oh, no, not
Yes.
initiation.
yep. Yep.
Oh,
so
gosh.
we're gonna put you in the hot seat.
Oh,
First time guest host.
it goes downhill from here, y'all.
Oh yeah.
It goes,
Yeah, all our guest hosts. All our guest
go
hosts.
ahead and put like $200 on that scoreboard. Go ahead.
All right. So this will help our audience get to know you kind of quickly. It's 10 rapid
right.
fire questions. All right. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. All right. That's all you got to do.
All right.
You ready? All
I'm
right.
ready.
Prince or Michael Jackson?
Michael.
Oh.
Girl,
Michael.
she's off the
of
show
course.
already. She's off the show all when her
I mean, listen. I love Prince. I mean, he's good. He comes in at second, but I mean, Michael.
Yes. All right,
Yes.
Dodge Caravan, Porsche 911.
Porsche.
All right. Feed the poor
Yeah.
or climate change?
What's that? Say that again. You're a little low.
Feed the poor or climate change?
Feed the poor.
All right.
Feed the poor.
All right. Pizza Hut or Panera salad?
Panera salad.
All right. If you had a superpower, you going for invisibility or flight?
Flight. I
I'm
got to
with you.
get places fast.
I'm with you. All right.
I don't have time.
Watching TV or listening to music?
Listen to music.
Beach or
Listen, I
mountain?
mean, nothing but coronavirus News on TV anyway. Give me some music.
I hear you.
Watch the killer shows on Discovery ID. I've investigated Discovery. You can watch all the killer shows like me.
Well,
right.
yep, those are good. Those are good.
All right, beach or mountains?
Beach, of
Ooh.
course.
All
Why
right.
is that even a question?
Some people like the mountains.
Beach. Yeah, mountains.
Prefer to be blind
Yeah.
or deaf?
What's that?
Mm.
You have a choice, blind or deaf.
Ooh, goodness, that's a tough one right there.
That's a tough one.
I would say deaf. I
Okay.
would say deaf.
All
I
right.
need to see. I need to keep an eye on my kids. I need to see what's going on. I need to have eyes in the back of my head.
All right. Cereal or bacon and eggs?
Bacon and eggs.
All right.
Yes.
Bachelor or Real Housewives?
Real Housewives.
Really?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's the hot
Bachelor's
seat.
boring. That's boring.
That's the hot seat. Good job. Good job. All
Should
right.
have said neither for that last one.
I would have said neither.
Yeah.
Neither.
That's what I would have gone with.
Hey, 90 Day Fiance. That's where that right there. That's where it's at. I'm
Yeah,
telling
my
you.
wife is all about that. I don't know about all that.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know about all that. I don't know.
You
All right.
gotta try it, especially the season that just ended.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. This season, this past season is amazing. I mean, I'm only hearing that from my
Hilarious.
wife, though. So
I suggest that maybe
You don't know
since
anything, right?
Insecure is over
I
now,
refuse to watch it.
finale, then that's what you guys talk about on the Wednesday Jam session now. 90 Day
Oh,
Fiance.
nah, we're good.
Oh
We're
my
good.
gosh.
Let's move
I'm
on. Let's
telling
move on.
you.
Okay, so we're gonna have the host a quick question, so we can get to know them a little better. So, if they made a movie of your life, what would the title be, and which actor would you want to play you? I'm gonna start with Lizzie.
Why do you always start with me first? Like I need a moment to collect my thoughts.
I start with Jam once in a while.
Well, let's start with East this evening. East,
All right, go ahead, East.
The actor I would want to play me is probably the guy that played Notorious B.I.G.
Okay.
and um the title of the movie, right? And the title of the movie,
Yeah, what you got?
Silent Rage.
Oh, that's a good one.
Ooh.
all right, we off hard.
Sounds like a
Lizzie, that's Lizzie. What you got?
suspense.
That's a
And,
good one.
I
yeah.
the actress that I would want to play me would probably be Dorothy Dandridge.
Mm.
Oh.
Yes.
And
Okay.
the title, that's a good one. The title, let's say, gosh, the title.
Let's go to Dr. D while you're thinking on
Yeah,
that.
I'll come back on the title.
All right, Dr. D.
So, I mean, that's a hard question. I'm
It is
glad
a
I
hard
had a
question.
minute to think about it. So, okay, now I was my first thought was Angela Bassett.
That's
Okay,
a good
because
one.
I love Angela Bassett. She's
And
everything
there's
to
a
me.
mild resemblance.
I've been told that. So if not Angela Bassett, definitely Issa Rae,
Okay, definitely.
because I can relate to Issa Rae's character on Insecure when I was in my 20s. I can completely relate.
Okay.
That's
And then the
Lizzie's
title of
favorite
the movie.
actor too.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, Lizzie loves her.
No, they're lying
So
to me. No, I no, I don't.
Oh, okay. So you're not the Issa Rae fan. Okay, or Issa's character. You're more of a Molly fan. Condola.
Condola. She
Condola
doesn't even know who
fan.
Condola is. All right, what's the title? Y'all come up with some titles yet?
Okay.
We gotta get on.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I thought of the title could be All My Life I Had to Fight.
All right now.
I like that one.
All right, Miss Sophia.
And
All right,
Lizzie,
Miss.
come on, what you got, Lizzie?
All my life.
Um, so I think again Dorothy Dandridge would be the actress to play me, and then I think the title will probably be The Color of a Woman.
Oh, like it.
Ooh.
I'm going with Ice Cube's son for me, and
Oh, they be cute.
not
O'Shea
Ice
Jackson
Cube. I want to make sure I look young, so I'm not doing Ice Cube. And then I'm gonna go with Persistence. That's gonna be the name of my movie, Persistence.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
All right.
all right,
Right.
all right. Let's move on. Let's jump into it. All right. So we got some shout outs we got to do. Who's got shout outs? D, Dr. D, you got some shout outs? Shout out to some family members, some people you.
I definitely want to shout out my husband, Aaron Farrell. I hope he's watching. Hey,
All right.
my husband. What's up? Hey, baby.
You got some shout outs?
I want to shout
Okay,
out my
Dee.
sister, all my sorors, all my friends, and I want to shout you all out for having me on the show. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. This
Thanks
is
for
great. I'm
joining.
having
Thank
fun
you.
already.
All right. Lizzie, you got some shout outs?
I don't know if she's watching. Sometimes she surprises us, but once again, if she's watching, I want to shout out to my sister, Jacqueline Robinson. I've never said this to you, Dr. D, but you remind me so much of her. You and Lauren remind me so much of the two of us. So shout
Oh
out
my
to
gosh.
my big sister. Hopefully she's watching. If not, hopefully she's having
East, you got any shout outs?
That is
Definitely
sweet.
shout out my wife Carla.
All right.
Thanks for all the support.
Hey, Miss Carla.
I got some shout outs. I got some shout outs for some of our Facebook viewers. We got Goran Slimani point out a great post for us on Facebook.
Yes.
Also got some people really engaged on our Facebook page. We got Alice Hung, Maria Lopez, Michelle Earls, Maya Godchild, Sydney Gaskin. There's a bunch of you guys. A lot of activity today specifically, so we're listening. So keep sharing. All right, guys? Also, a shout out to my wife as well, Mel.
Yes, now.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the show. Now, the way our show works, each host comes up with hot topics they want to discuss, mostly based upon, discussions that they had with you online and what you want to talk about. I'll pick one of our hosts to start, and then they'll tell us what's going on, what their topic is, ask a question. I'll start the timer, and then we'll jump in and let the conversation flow. Once time is up, you'll see this.
Oh.
And that means it's time to move on to the next host, and we'll talk about whatever they want. Now, remember, your comments and questions do help drive the conversation, so comment away. And today, I think I'll start with East. East, what you got?
All right. I was looking in the newspaper and I came across this article. Actually, what struck me first was the picture. I saw a picture of a black man carrying this white man, and then I saw the headline, which was the black protester carried away an injured citizen away from a mob. And then if you read the article in the more detail, the white gentleman was part of an alt-right group that was counter-protesting against the Black Lives Matter faction in London. And this guy, Patrick Hutchinson, came on the scene. The other gentleman, he was down and being assaulted by a group of protesters, Black Lives Matter protesters. And the report is that there was a phrase, somebody shouted out, "We don't do this here." And then shortly after that was shouted out, he emerged from the group with him over his shoulder.
I have a video for you if you
And
want it.
oh, go ahead.
You want it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
I'd like to see it.
All right.
My friends and I had put a cordon around this man.
Oh.
He was sort of on the stairs, lying in the fetal position. with, you know, anything was about to happen to him. The first time I saw him was when I sort of climbed underneath him to go and pick him up. I'm carrying him, my friends are surrounding me, protecting myself and the man on my shoulder. He was, you know, still sort of receiving blows. You could sort of feel people trying to hit him. Carried him over to the police, and I said, "Here you are." And one police officer said, "Thank you. You did a good thing there, man." You have to show some sort of, you know, love for your fellow man, okay, regardless. Because I was saying that if the other 3 officers that were present when George Floyd was unfortunately murdered, if just one of them had stepped in and stopped, you know, their fellow officer from doing what he did, he'd be alive today.
What do you want people to take away when they look at that picture?
I think hopefully they'll take away breaking down the race barriers and realise and see that we're all one people, that we're all one race.
Well, not to take away Sheridan East from that beautiful act, but can we get Patrick's T-shirt? I don't know if you guys saw that. It's melanin nair. Like, I would love to have that T-shirt.
Melanin nair.
I did like the shirt too. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we briefly discussed it among each other. Like, that would never happen if that was a black person being stomped out. I don't know if there would be a person on the alt-right to come in and save a Black Lives Matter protester
Is that your question?
from getting right. Like,
All right, I'm starting a timer.
like
Who wants to go first?
I mean, I don't know. That's more of a statement. Like, it's not going to happen, and that's kind of a demonstration of where we are. Like, we should be able to protest peacefully. We should be able to protest vigorously against each other. But then, when it comes to somebody potentially being harmed and assaulted, that should be the point that say, okay, we need to help each other. I guess in terms, no questions, but Lizzie, do you have any other comments?
So I think one, again, you know, props to Patrick, Mr. Patrick, for, you know, showing some humanity in a very difficult situation. It's not the first time that we've really seen this. Like, this happened, you know, across the pond in London. But I think there was a couple of videos here where we saw, one in particular where we saw protesters protect a police officer. A police officer, a white police officer, had been surrounded by protesters, and, you know, they were about to go in, and some of the other protesters who were a part of the same group got in front of him and, like, formed a barrier to protect him. Like, this is not what we
Protect an
do. This is
officer,
not
yep.
what we're a part of. But I agree with you. I don't think an alt-right person would do that. I certainly not, you know, any of the KKK, any of the white supremacists that are out here that are heavily influencing a lot of these protests and disrupting things and trying to point the finger at BLM and, you know, other Black protesters. So I do believe that it would probably be a bit one-sided in the gesture. But that's not to say that there aren't white people
Right. That's
who are on our side.
That was going to be my point. Yep.
Yeah, but in terms of what the point that East made, I don't think alt-right would have anything to do with us. They just let us, you know, die on the street. That's because that's what they want. That's what they want.
That's been done before too.
But
So why just die on the
to
street?
Lizzie's point,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking hardcore Black Lives Matter, or if you're talking about people who have come to hate white people, they probably wouldn't have done that. Matter of fact, they were probably the ones throwing the blows. So, I mean, you have to look at it both ways. They're just good people and they're bad people. I mean, so this was a really good person to protect him that way, and he believes in you know, protecting life.
And I agree. I mean, I think, again, I agree with what you all said. I think it's wonderful that he did what he did. That was showing humanity. But let's look at the different groups, okay? Let's look at Black Lives Matter. What is the core belief of Black Lives Matter? is that our lives matter. It's not saying we want to do anything to anybody, that we want to get rid of anybody, want to kill anybody. We don't want to take anyone's rights away. We just are saying, look, hey, hello, we matter. But the KKK, they're about killing, they're about harming, they're about disenfranchising, the skinheads, same thing, and all these other groups. So I'm not saying that that makes up all white folks. I'm not saying that at all. I think that if the situation had been reversed and you had an individual white person or maybe a small group, they may have helped the black gentleman. But if this was a group, if this was a group of skinheads, if this was a group of whatever, they would have helped him meet his maker sooner. They wouldn't have just left him for dead. They would have finished him off. And that is the truth. I hate to say that, but that is what would have happened.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I think
I'm fired up already.
the agenda for alt life and for those other groups is the demise of the Black race. But then again, like I said, that's not every white person. Even if you look at the video of what happened to George Floyd, there were white people there yelling at those cops.
Yes.
Like about to jump out of their skin at those cops about their inaction, about allowing what happened to George Floyd happen. But yeah, Sharon East is right. Dr. D is right. I'm still in high school mode, y'all. Forgive me. So I'm like reverting back.
That's all right.
Yeah, East is right. I think Dr. D is right. Like for these extremist groups that totally support and promote white supremacy, they wouldn't have helped us at all.
Yep.
Not even close.
But again, I just want to reiterate, it's just come. I mean, if you really think about it, how many people helped that guy? There weren't many people that helped. There were a small percentage of the large group of people that were willing to actually help him. So it's about good people and not necessarily about good groups of people.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
when you get to the extremes of groups, I think on the extreme ends, they kind of meet close to the same place. So when you're talking about violence, like Neil said, you have a group. I'm pretty sure there's a group of maybe a violent faction of people who might align themselves with Black Lives Matter, but they might be violent. So that might be the group that would have stomped out Hutchinson for trying to help him out.
True.
So,
And they're violent independent of Black Lives Matter. Like they come into the movement violent.
Right. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But I do want to just emphasize the whole point, which is that there are definitely white people aligned with the whole movement, the current movement going on right now.
All right.
Absolutely. And there have been some good people at the Black Lives, at the most recent protests. Good people of all races, all backgrounds, white folks, Black folks. And I love seeing the diversity at the protests. So there are good people amongst us.
All right. All right, well, we got 5 seconds. All right. So the cookie's about to come in, so I'm just going to shut up.
Cookie's about to come in.
Like
All right.
it's like the Sandman.
Right.
So I did want to start off.
We thought about using the Sandman, actually.
We did. We voted against that.
Oh, you voted against. Okay.
All right. So there was breaking news earlier today. The Atlanta police officer charged with felony murder in the shooting death of Rayshard Brooks outside Wendy's could face death penalty, said prosecutors. So I just want your quick thoughts. We're not even going to put on a timer. Let's talk about it real quick. Start with Lizzie.
I don't understand. Like I know this is trying to placate a lot of people. I don't understand why he would possibly receive the death penalty versus the officer who was responsible for George Floyd. So I do think that he should be charged. I do think that he, should be charged with felony murder. Absolutely. But I'm not quite sure the death penalty. I think that's kind of a reach here.
Yeah.
But in any event, like if you look at all of the videos of, like, and we talked about this on Sunday, if you look at all of the videos of the interaction with what happened with Rayshard Brooks, he was calm. He alerted the
Drunk,
police.
but calm.
He said, I don't want to commit any offense. Please, my sister lives right there. Please allow me to walk home. Like there was nothing done on the officer's part to help this man to de-escalate this situation. And I don't know about you guys, but I lived in New York for 21 years. I've seen police officers, they see, homeless people, they see people who are drunk, especially, during big holidays
They
like
don't
New Year's
arrest
Eve.
them.
They don't arrest them. They help them along the way.
Yeah,
So I
someone
don't.
said and I don't know if I agree with it, but someone online had said if this were a white college student, they would have taken his keys and thrown him in an Uber.
I went to school in Boulder, Colorado. That is a 100% truth.
Yeah.
100.
Wow.
University of Colorado used to be known as the party school of the country,
Yeah.
the number one party
Yeah.
school. And I did my fair share partying there, and it's a predominantly white school. And I guarantee you that they were not treating drunk white students who were trying to sleep it off in their car the way that this man was treated.
Now, granted, he was actually in the drive-in window, passed out, which is why they called the police. So he was actually driving at some point, inebriated. But with that being said, he didn't deserve what he got.
No.
Yeah, I
No,
just think
absolutely not.
I don't know if you guys made the point on Sunday, but he got shot at Wendy's, but after Dylan Roof killed 9 people in Charleston, South Carolina, they took him to Burger King.
Yeah, he
So
got that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, so
Right.
Oh,
just the and I hate to revisit it, but the dude was drunk. Well, he was inebriated. He was legally intoxicated. He had just finished beating 2 police officers down, so he was tired. Like he wasn't going anywhere. All he had to do was keep running. I mean, and that's outside of the fact of how they shouldn't have de-escalated the situation anyway.
Yeah.
He wasn't going anywhere. If he would have just kept running, he had a non-lethal weapon. He fired a taser at him.
Yeah.
I mean,
even before,
I want to. Okay.
why not offer to walk him home? Why
Yeah.
not offer to drive him home? Like I
Right.
don't.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't disrespectful in any way. He was. I mean, normally
Right.
I've seen police officers when someone's disrespectful, then they
Right.
say I'm gonna arrest you because you're disrespecting me. But the guy was just trying to. He was, whatever.
If I tell you
Right.
that I'm
And
drunk, why are you pressing me to take a breathalyzer test? I done told you already
Yeah.
that I am drinking. So
But
what is your info here?
Dr. D, jump in real
it's
quick.
about protecting and
last
serving.
word.
And were they protecting and serving? No.
Absolutely
No, they were not.
Absolutely.
They were not. There are
Oh.
so many other ways that could have been handled.
Yep. All right,
They
Lizzie.
got angry because they got beat down.
All right, Lizzie. Go ahead
Yeah.
to your next topic. Let's go ahead and get started.
We're going to go into sports a little bit and talk about Oklahoma State football and Coach Mike Gundy. So Mike Gundy has been at Oklahoma State for 15 years. Over the past 2 years, he's had a record of 15-11. He is 2-13 against their rival, Oklahoma. He has been very controversial at the university, but the latest incident came about when he appeared in a picture wearing an OAN shirt, a shirt that depicted OAN. And OAN means One America News. It is a far right news channel website. They promote a lot of conspiracy theories. They basically said to Trump, we want you to, put a lot of your energy into our network because we don't feel that you're being fairly represented with the other networks, including Fox News. Like they are even against Fox News. That's how conservative and far right they are. In addition to that, over the past, I would say, 2 weeks, they've had several commentators on their network who have trashed Black Lives Matter, who've called Black Lives Matter terrorists, who called Black Lives Matter a farce, who said that Black Lives Matter aren't really Americans, they aren't patriots. So one of the Oklahoma State football players took exception, and his name is Chuba Hubbard. He's a running back at Oklahoma State. Last season, he ran for over 2,000 yards, so he's their top running back. He took exception to his head coach supporting this organization, One America News. And this isn't the first time that, Mike Gundy has supported One America News. He's always hyping them up on his, social media channels. I believe it was like maybe a month ago. He made some comments about COVID-19 and about how it was a conspiracy and how he wanted all of his players to come back because they're big and they're strong and they're healthy and they could beat this virus if there really is a virus. And so the question becomes, why do you have someone who is so problematic in your organization representing, coaching your team that is predominantly Black, receiving $5 million a year as his salary? I'm going to kick it to East first.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
I think that, first of all, excellent question. I think that
It's all
they
right.
shouldn't,
Question.
to huh? What'd you say? Oh, all right,
It's
it's
an
just all
all right
right.
question.
It's just all right. It just, you know, it, he gets paid a lot of money to represent the university, the state, and every move he makes should be scrutinized. And if that's how he feels, he can feel like that at home without making the $5 million. And in actuality, the guy Chuba Hubbard that you were talking about, I mean, he came back uh, partly to increase his draft stock, but also for his teammates, and
Mm-hmm.
in part for the coach. So, I mean, when he does that, there's definitely a sense of betrayal. I think the larger question is, at what point are Black athletes going to stop making these coaches millionaires and maybe divert their talent to HBCUs? The money follows the talent. And if, let's say, instead of Alabama getting the top recruiting class, let's just say Howard got it, or Florida A&M, or A&T. I mean, that the television money will follow where the talent is. So if no Black athletes, and I'm sorry because I hijacked your question, but
I
if
was gonna
no,
say, I was thinking that.
Completely different topic. And I think you would be surprised as to where I fall on this idea that all top Division I athletes should go to HBCUs. But continue.
yeah, yeah, but no, but to answer the question, yeah, um, no, there's no way that the university should have him representing uh, them like they are. Plus, he's kind of sucked the last couple of years, so it's
I
almost
mean,
like
they haven't
right. So it's
haven't
almost
won a
like
thing.
this is a good way to kind of dump him and and start from scratch.
Jacqueline Robinson says, "Speak on, sis."
Oh, so yeah, so there's Deidre's twin, my sister Jackie. Hey, girl.
So I
Hey,
don't know if
twin.
do you watch sports at all, Dr. D?
I watch a little bit of sports, but I will say on this situation, with him wearing a shirt like that, it kind of lets you know where his heart is, okay? And as the Bible says, the actions come from what's within the heart. And there's going to be some implicit bias there with how he deals with his players, how he manages them, how he makes decisions. So that's my concern. And I believe that we have freedom of speech, and just like I should be able to wear a Black Lives Matter shirt if I want to, and not be fired for it or something like that. But then there's also the type of dress that you have in the organization that you work for, and being that a network is problematic then that's something that should be addressed. If I were his boss, I would say, you can't wear that shirt. We're not going to wear any type of shirts that show any allegiance to any type of organization. I just have to make it across the board. And I'd have to look at how are you managing, how are you making decisions? Because, that shirt is letting me know where your heart is.
Yeah.
So let me kind of look at what's going on with your behavior.
Letting me know where your heart is on a team where you have players who have been outspoken Black Lives Matter advocates, especially the player in question who, stood up and made that tweet. He has, for the past, I would say, year, has consistently talked about Black Lives Matter, about racial injustice, about issues in the Black community, including police brutality. So basically, it's like you're giving a finger to your top player on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think he should. I personally think he's done nothing. He's been nothing but an eyesore for the organization. It's time to let him go, personally.
So do you think, Lizzie, Chuba Hubbard should have even apologized for his actions? Because he apologized.
That's a good question.
And
I
think he should have apologized.
I don't either.
I think the thing I thought about his apology that I agreed with is that he made the statement on social media before he stepped to his coach. And I agree so I think that was his initial apology. Like, I think you step to him first. Like, you say it with your chest and you go into your coach, or because we are socially distancing right now, you call your coach or whatever, and you let him know, I don't play this, brother. Like, what are you doing? This organization is an affront to my well-being, my livelihood. So what are you doing? I think he should have done that first. But other than that, like, we don't know what they said to Chuba behind the scenes in terms of his scholarship and, all that other stuff. But I do agree with him because he acknowledged, he was like, I should have talked to my coach first. And I think that should have happened before we get to the tweets and the social media. Like, I'm not really of the culture where I feel like I need to communicate with someone solely on social media. Like, if I have something to say to you for real, I'm at least going to
apologize
in a text message on the side.
I mean, they definitely weren't socially distant in that tweet, that Twitter post. They dapped each other up.
Or like last month, he was like, "Come on back."
Yeah. I guarantee you, his scholarship was not in question.
All right, it's time to move on to the next one. I'm going to bring you up, Dr. D, after we do our viewer, because it's actually related.
Okay.
All right. So for my topic, last week we were having a pretty deep discussion about, let me pull up this video. We were looking at this video here. And, this gentleman was, having a mental issue. And the officer kind of attacked him. But what? Yeah. So.
I believe.
What?
Has he been charged?
Yeah, he was charged. He was arrested.
Okay.
Yeah. But of course, we've shown several videos. Showing all type of police brutality, murders, etc. Now, one of our viewers, Rob Bertrand, asked a question online while we were online live last week. We tried to answer the question, but after the show, he PM'd me and said he wasn't sure we adequately addressed his question. So, with that said, we decided to do a new feature. We decided to bring on some of you viewers and allow them to ask our panel a question. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Rob. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome to the show. Welcome. So, Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I guess full disclosure, I am Canadian and I am Caucasian, so I do have a very different vantage point. I am.
And noted.
Yeah, so I find your show very educational. I do appreciate it, and it's been quite revealing, and I've been learning a lot about myself through the process too. So please keep up the good work. This is really good stuff.
Thank you. All right,
Thank you.
so go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back to it because for me, as a Canadian, I have to wonder how big a role does American gun culture play in how police services are expected to react to certain situations and are prone to overreact to situations. Uh, if you're dealing with an armed populace, your response is going to be proportional to that threat. So I wanted to kind of get that conversation going with you again.
I'm looking at East, and I see your face. I want you to go ahead and start, East. I'm starting a timer.
No, I think I hope I understand the question, and I'm trying to relate it to like two most prominent situations going on in this country with George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks. Um, and in those situations, I know the alleged perpetrator, George Floyd and Brooks, they were patted down. They didn't have any firearms on them at the time, and I don't. I think I understand. Like, if it were a situation where there was a confrontation and they didn't have that opportunity to know whether or not they had a firearm, then I could see that the police raises their level of escalation and possibly use a firearm.
So if I could jump in, I think Rob's question may be a little bit different. I
Okay.
think the question sounds like it's more along the lines of, you know, the fear that police officers have in general related to gun violence. Now, of course, you really can't use the George Floyd situation as a good example because he was standing on his neck. But I think he's asking about a correlation between, gun violence and police involved murders. Lizzie?
I think, at least in this country, and again, I'm really not familiar. I've been to Canada a couple of times, but I'm really not familiar with the actual culture, specifically the racial culture, the differences, the similarities. But I think here, a lot of that fear is based on the color of your skin. I think a lot of police officers in this country are fearful with in regards to armed black people, particularly armed black men, versus armed white men. There was a case a couple of years ago of a white guy, and I'm speaking off the top of my head, so I don't have all of the exact details, but he was a white guy who had committed, I think it was a triple murder. He killed a couple of people, right? And the police show up on the scene and they're trying to apprehend him. And the actual suspect and the police officer, they are in the front lawn almost doing a dance. The police officer didn't take him down. The police officer at one point is running from him because the suspect is chasing him, is being very aggressive towards him. And I remember everyone looking at that like, okay, if that was a brother, if that was a black man, he would have been shot down in 2 seconds. Like, that just would not have played out. Sheridan earlier, a little while
East?
ago, talked about Dylan Roof. I'm sorry, East, a little while ago, talked about Dylan Roof. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that story, but several years ago, Dylan Roof, a teenager, went into a church, a predominantly black church in South Carolina, and killed multiple people. After he was apprehended, not only did they not shoot him, did they not beat him down, but they brought him fast food afterwards. So I think there's a difference in the way armed black men in particular are treated versus armed white men. You look at the situation in Michigan, even before George Floyd was killed, the situation in Michigan in which a lot of people were upset about the COVID-19 restrictions. And so they descended upon the governor's mansion. They descended upon, I believe it was the state capitol, if I'm not mistaken.
State Capitol.
And they were armed. They were armed. Can you envision Black people doing that?
I just
Like, we
want
would have
to
been
point out
shot
one thing.
down in 2 seconds.
Well,
Jacqueline
yeah,
Robinson.
the Black Panthers did that in the 70s, and the whole organization was infiltrated. And so that's what happens when it's Black people. And when I say infiltrated, meaning people were killed. So
Jacqueline Robinson said the Second Amendment wasn't written with us in mind. So, Rob, so far, are you getting are we answering your question appropriately?
I think that it's a much more comprehensive answer than last time. There's better discussion.
I want to point out a couple of things, and we only have 50 seconds, so I'm gonna go over time. But I want to point out a couple of things. This is one thing. So, who owns the world's guns? All right, out of firearms per 100 residents.
There's Canada.
Yeah, Canada's actually on there. But U.S. is 120 to every 100 residents is the number of guns, right? And
if you scroll further down on that site, Neo, you'll find that when they start trying to categorize the types of weapons that are on the streets, I believe it's 28% is completely unknown, 38% is handguns, some fall under the assault rifle category, and a tiny percentage is hunting. So Canada has a strong hunting culture. So by proxy, some kind of gun culture, but it's a hunting culture.
Well, I was just going to go back to that because Finland was also on that list, and even though I'm Black, I used to live in Finland, and the majority
do with anything.
even though because Finland is a predominantly white country, like I was a celebrity because I was Black there, but Finland, the Finns, the majority of people who own guns in Finland are like what Rob just said. They're hunters. Okay. It's not, folks are not packing. It's not, I have an open carry permit. They're hunters. They're hunting moose. They're hunting reindeer and things like that.
So obviously we're out of time, but I want to point out a couple more things. So there was an NIH study specifically regarding the correlation between fatal police shootings and the number of firearms or the firearm legislations. And I'm just going to show a graph. It's actually easier to show the graph from this study. So basically they took that annualized rate of fatal police shootings on your y-axis and the firearm legislative strength score. Basically, they had a score based upon the legislations in particular states. And if you look, the graph shows, depending on how loose the gun legislations are, there were how loose there were more. And if there were more stringent gun control laws, it was actually less police shootings. And that's actual, study. And if we look at the conclusions, legislative restrictions on firearms are associated with reductions in fatal police shootings. And although further research is necessary to determine casualty and potential mechanisms, firearm legislation is a potential policy solution for reducing fatal police shootings in the United States. So I'm not saying, because I totally agree that Black lives are less important or less valuable in the U.S. culture and with the police. But the reality remains, this question is legitimate, and the gun culture itself makes these police officers quick trigger police officers, and particularly in the states where the gun laws are pretty loose. So,
right.
I wish we could have had some statistics from after the assault weapons ban expired. I think that the number of mass casualty events involving guns went up also. So um, yeah, the U.S. is trigger happy, and
Well, and
unfortunately,
no, I was just going to
But
ask.
it boils down to fear. It boils down to fear. And like with the Eric Garner situation and also with George Floyd, still there, even if there is no gun used, there's still brutality. And it boils down to fear. And it boils down to some officers fearing the black male, especially the black male of a certain stature. And there are studies that support that.
Yeah, there are
That's what it
studies that
boils
support
down
that.
to.
We don't have
I
them
was
Yeah.
just
here, but there are studies that support that.
I was just going to ask very quickly because I'm not really familiar with Canadian culture as it relates to guns. Like, are the gun laws in Canada
Canada.
very Canada, new country, in Canada, are the gun laws here very lax?
We have very stringent gun regulations. There was a recent bill that was just passed in Canada within the last 2 months that restricted another 1,500 types of weapons. So just like a pump act or like certain types of 12 gauge shotguns and whatnot, because these weapons are meant to hunt. And to hunt, you don't need to expend a full magazine to take down a moose. You need your one good shot and to chamber another round. Because from the outsider, to me, it seems that if you had the ability to demilitarize your population, you would have an opportunity to demilitarize your police forces in tandem, and you could stop feeding off of that fear, because the solution to fear isn't giving every other person a gun, because then you have frightened people with lethal potential, and that's just it's a recipe for disaster that we've seen time and time again.
Totally agree.
Well, and
Great points. Good.
just to add to that very
Last
quickly,
word.
the majority of guns that are in the hands of American, well, I won't say the majority, but a large portion of guns that are in the hands of American citizens in this country are bought on the black market. Like, a lot of these guns are illegal. And as much as we want to talk about gun control or whatever, there's nothing being done about stopping the guns from coming into this country. So that's a whole other conversation, but that's something that needs to be pointed out. It's like, a lot of these guns are not legal weapons. These are things that people are getting illegally that are coming in through various channels across the board, and our government really isn't doing anything about that.
Okay. All right. Well, Rob, we want to thank you for joining us. Great discussion. We really appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Yes, I feel much better answer this time around.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So,
Nice.
I think we should do that more often.
yeah, I think so.
I
It
like
worked out
that,
really well.
yeah.
We should start bringing some people on once in a while. All right. So, Dr. D, you get your first topic. Let's hear it.
Come on.
All right. All right. So just kind of sticking with the whole topic of the police. Okay. So I read an article on WTOP. Also, and that's the press release. Also, Prince George's County Public Schools and Montgomery County Schools are thinking of removing their student resource officers from the schools. And I just wanted to just kind of get everyone's opinions on that. What they want to do is they want to evaluate the role of the SROs. They also want to remove them and then replace them with more social workers or more mental health workers in the schools. And what the article said was that, having the police officers, especially armed police officers in the schools, kind of it adds to that school to prison pipeline. And it's really just it's a bad look for the school, because it sort of looks like, okay, the school is looking like a jail in a sense. So All right, so who would like to give their opinion first?
Let's start with Lizzie.
Ladies first, Lizzie, what you think?
So so when I first heard about this topic, or whenever this topic comes up in the media, I think back to when we were in school, and especially particularly at Wilson. So all of us, the four of us on this panel, went to Wilson Senior High School in Washington D.C.
Boo.
And
I love this.
Go Tigers.
I mean, would you call our security guards school resource officers?
I think they did. Didn't
No.
We had Mr. Palmer.
Mr.
Well,
Palmer?
was he?
Oh my God. How do you remember the name?
And Mr.
I mean, because
Dickerson.
And Mr.
We had Mr. Palmer. That's who we had.
he definitely was
Our
armed.
security guard. He was our
But
security. He wore Hawaiian shirts every day.
And he was,
Can you remember him?
and he was trying to holler at students. Like he definitely
Yeah, he was
wasn't.
a guy who looked like he was on vacation. No, no disrespect to Mr. Palmer. We loved Mr. Palmer.
He
Okay.
did
He
love
did have on his vacation
He
shirt.
tried to love y'all too.
He never tried to talk to me, but every time I saw that brother, he looked like he was on the Tom Joyner cruise. I mean, he had on his vacation shirt and his pants and his little shoes. I was like, dude, where is he going?
But I
Like,
don't
that's
think
security. Like,
I don't think he was armed. And I
No.
think
No,
that's
he wasn't. He definitely wasn't.
no.
I don't feel like again, because we live in a different time, like, 2020 is totally different than we were in high school, where we don't really have the level of we didn't have the level of mass shootings back then that we have now. So maybe you do need one armed officer. Probably not the guy that was down at Parkland who decided he was going to run out and not defend anybody. But I look at this situation, I'm just like, what must the students think when they see these guys in the school who are armed, who are basically militarizing their school setting? And honestly, I don't have an answer. Like I know the times have changed, and I don't know what my solution would be for that. Like I do think there needs to be some type of security like we had. I do think there needs to be some type of protection, but then on the flip side, I'm just like, well, what does a student think when they're walking down the hallway and they see Russ standing there and he's fully armed? It has to be intimidating. It has to be. I mean, I was very friendly with Mr. Palmer. I would not have been equally as friendly if I saw that he had a gun.
Oh, good
No
point.
way.
That's a good point.
No way.
That's a
Well,
really
I'm
good
going to say this because I work in the schools, and I've worked in many schools with police officers. So when I worked in DC public schools, we had MPD in our middle schools. I'd never worked in high school, but I worked in middle schools, and we had MPD that would frequent some of the elementary schools.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Side,
yes.
side by side band.
Side by
Yeah.
side.
And it was not the side by
Officer
side
friendly,
band,
yep.
but the side by side band was epic. Okay, and that was the policeman. For those of you who don't know, they
That's
had.
right.
I mean, they sang go go, all the hits, all of that.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and I didn't ask every student, but the police officers became a part of the school community, if that makes any sense. I think it makes a difference if the officer is stationed at that school and they are there every day and they become part of the culture. So this is what I would do as a school psychologist. I always made friends with the police officer. He or she would become my first friend because one, I wanted to feel protected, and two, yeah, protected, and two, I would get a lot of good insight from the police officers. If I had to evaluate a student, especially if I was looking at whether the student had an emotional disability or not, I'm asking the police officer, do you know Johnny? Have you seen anything? What have you noticed? What do you think? And I would get such great perspectives from the police officer, and they would appreciate me asking them their opinion. And then, of course, they would. I appreciated getting their insight on things. So when it was time for the police officer to step in, they did, but rarely. So I rarely saw a police officer arrest a kid. They didn't have to. They had their weapon. They did have their weapon, but they rarely had to pull it out. But the thing that makes me in support of SROs is because they do protect the school from the outside threats. A few years ago, there was a shooting at Great Mills High School in St. Mary's County, Maryland, and it's a place where nobody would expect a shooting to happen. But the shooting was amongst students. So one student shot another student, actually shot two students. One passed away, one lived. But the SRO was very helpful in really containing that situation and making sure that it didn't get to be something that was worse. So and then there was another case in Georgia where some random guy just went up in an elementary school and was going to shoot up the school. I think this was like in 2013 or something like that. It was after Sandy Hook. And an SRO would have been someone who would have really been instrumental in protecting the school. I think the I could go on and on about this, but I feel strongly about it. Okay, I'm done.
Do you think that because clearly I think the culture of police departments has changed since we were in high school? So does it stress you or bother you about the vetting process for the SROs to come into these schools? And
Try to keep it short. I want to
I've
get to
never
at least
been
one
part
more
of that.
topic.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Should I answer that?
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead. Just keep
So
it
I've
short. I
never
want to
been
get to the
part
next
of
topic.
Okay,
Go ahead.
but
Shania,
okay.
go ahead.
But they usually get good, in my experiences, we've always had really good SROs. From what I understand, there is a vetting process, and a lot of officers want to work in schools. So the ones who truly like students and want to be part of the school culture tend to gravitate toward the schools. The older ones, the ones who are closer to retirement, the ones who are kind of more warm and fuzzy, they like to work in the schools. Not to stereotype them, but that's what I've seen.
All right.
I think if we got back to the culture where we had officer friendly, coming to the, or you had the police band coming to the school, like I think that would break a lot of that tension.
Yep.
And it would give the officers an opportunity to interact with these students and let them know that, okay, we're not the big bad guy in this scenario.
Right.
It would also help the officers feel more comfortable with the children as they get older, as they become adults.
It does. It really helps, because the thing is, and I've been in a situation where I've had to be part of the group that has had to call the police to come into a school to assist with the situation. And when you have to call the police officer who's not familiar with the school, not familiar with the students, they're coming in there like, okay, this is a threat. They're not smiling. They're not looking at the kids like, oh, he reminds me of my little cousin Tay Tay. They're coming in there like, what? And that empathy and that warm and fuzziness is not there. But if you have someone who is at the school every day, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different.
All right, so let's go ahead and get one more topic in, and we'll get Dr. D's second topic in. Go ahead, Dr. D.
All right. So my second topic is about the coronavirus. Okay. So now that our states are opening up and we're moving from phase 1 to phase 2 and all of that, there's anxiety that goes along with that. So the article says these are the 9 signs that you have some anxiety with the post-COVID lockdown. So, okay. Right. And it's a real thing. We have almost 20% of Americans are diagnosed with anxiety. So it was a problem before COVID. So now that we've had COVID, we've been in the house, we've been scared, just out of our wits of about this virus. I believe that the numbers are going to rise in terms of diagnosed cases of anxiety. So I'm just gonna just go over just maybe one or two of the signs, but feeling worried or stressed about the future, difficulty sleeping, feeling tired, irritable, racing heart, stomach cramps, shortness of breath, sweating. Those are some signs that you have some anxiety. I have experienced some of those myself, and I think any of us who are human have had at least one sleepless night during this lockdown. So what do you all say, East? What do you think about that? Have you had any anxiety?
I think the anxiety arises from the almost the anticipation that people aren't going to listen and follow directions about the precautions in place, like wearing a mask, the
You're
social
talking about people in the
distancing.
street and
Yes,
okay.
yes. Just that, just other people on the street, uh, in the store, even at your job potentially, are not going to abide by the the precautions in place from the CDC or whomever, uh, so that you can try to reduce the risk of being of contracting COVID-19. That's the anxiety, just kind of the fear of that. And honestly, the way that this has gone, like it's almost kind of opened up Pandora's box that hey, I can actually perform my job, perform it well at home. So why do I need to go back?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so now
It
it's
can
like
really
it's that anxiety. Like, why are you forcing me to go back to a confined location, increasing my chances of possibly contracting COVID when I can actually perform my job at a high and I know Neil, I think we discussed it earlier, like, it's like we're almost working more, longer, or harder
I am.
now at home, eh,
I
than going to the office. So
Yeah.
now
Because I have the
I don't
same
know.
workload I had before, but now I have all these telecons and extra emails and all this other stuff I got to deal with. So it's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
Absolutely.
say in terms of the sleep factor, so I was, even before coming into the pandemic, I was already in insomnia and didn't get a lot of sleep. And so imagine now, like it's just increased ridiculously. So I try to gather naps during the day, like, so I'm a professor and so I'm teaching online. And so when my students take, a lunch break, I try to take a nap. Instead of eating lunch, I try to take a nap because I know I haven't slept. My students always, joke with me or laugh at me because when I send out assignments or I'm grading papers, they always get it at like 4, 5, 6 in the morning because I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm up. If you pay attention to my social media, I'm posting at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And I think even East has like texted me like, "What are you doing up?" And I'm like, that's just my thing. But it's gotten so much worse during the pandemic because I can't shut down the anxiety. I
So
can't
Mm-hmm.
shut down
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what's going on.
so
And not just COVID, like with everything else on top of
Yeah.
COVID.
so for me,
Yeah, and that's the hard part because we can't control this. And with anxiety pre-COVID, typically when people had anxiety, it was over something, an irrational fear or something that happened in the past, and they're anxious over something traumatic that happened over in the past, but they're safe,
yeah.
in a safe environment. At some point in therapy, they're able to work on their anxiety. But now, how can you address anxiety when you're in the midst of a storm and it's like, hey, are we safe? Nah, we're not. We're not.
So for me, I don't feel like I've been that anxious. I mean, of course, you're worried about catching something. I mean, there have been a couple of times where, I felt something in my chest, and I was like, "Oh my God, do I have
Hmm.
COVID?
I've
Is
been
this,
there. I've been there.
Yeah.
like, what is this?"
Yeah.
But I think the only thing that makes me sad is that I don't get to do the things I enjoy. Like I loved playing basketball or volleyball. Now I can't do those things as I was before. So I miss those things. So maybe if that's
Hmm.
anxiety, then I have anxiety. But otherwise, I don't feel anxious.
Well, I think of it this way, like imagine going into a grocery store or going back to work and you have allergies, right?
Hmm.
And you cough or you sneeze. You will clear that room. That's how
That's
on
true.
edge
That-
people are.
That's a good
Now,
point.
like seriously, like
I have
before, if you sneeze, cut you, oh, bless you, bless you. You think anybody's gonna say bless you now? They,
Like, get out
they're
my
gonna look at
face.
you like,
I
right, like
have
hey, they ready to call the police on you.
5 seconds.
Right.
allergies, and the pollen count is always very high in.
I talked to you as
All
well.
right, last word. Last word. Go ahead, Lizzie. Last word.
No, I was just gonna say I have severe allergies, and the pollen count is always very high in DC. So that was something that I had to adjust to when the pandemic started. Like, okay, you need to hold that cough. You need to carry a lozenge. You need to do something because even though this isn't COVID, people are going to think that you are infected because you're outside and you're coughing. Like I don't sneeze that much, even though I have a lot of congestion, but the cough overcomes, like it's just crazy. And so it's weird for people who have allergies because everyone looks at us like, okay, what are you doing out in the streets? What are you
Right.
doing out here?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Better choke that cough.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, so we have.
That cough in the street.
All right, so that's all our
Woo.
topics for today. But we don't close it out. We have a little fun before we close it out. So we're gonna be talking Insecure. I know Dr. D is an Insecure fan.
Woo.
Yep. So we
Boy,
have the
oh
season
boy, I
finale of
tell you.
Insecure. Let's show the promo real quick. Oh, where's my
No
audio?
sound.
Let me get my audio. Hold on.
Well, that might be good for me though, because I don't like Issa's voice.
What do you mean you don't like Issa's voice? She has a great voice.
I thought you just didn't like her mouth. So you don't like what comes out of her mouth either.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's messed up.
Oh
I
Oh,
will.
my
man.
gosh.
Oh,
Insecure.
I'm sorry. While
All right,
Leo,
the audio's not working, so
but just
let me
Molly,
just.
Molly is a good comedian, right? She has a show on HBO. She's really funny.
I don't know that she's
I haven't seen that
good.
yet. I need
She
to
was
check
all
that
right.
out.
She was okay.
Yeah, I watched the Dave Chappelle today, so she's next on my list of
I
shows.
still need to
Yeah.
watch Dave Chappelle. I still need to watch the Dave Chappelle.
Oh, you do need
Yeah,
to watch
yeah,
that.
you
I mean,
got
but it
to see
wasn't
that.
funny. This Dave Chappelle thing wasn't funny.
It wasn't. It was not funny. It was
That's
intense,
why I
but
want to watch
needed to
it
be
because
said.
the last funny show was not funny.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to watch this because I think it's probably very pertinent and offer some insight as to what we're all going through right now.
All right, so this week
Yeah.
was the season finale. The whole season we kind of watched Issa and Molly have growing further and further apart. We're trying to figure out their personal relationships without each other to kind of lean on and talk to. Even while Issa was finding her way back to Lawrence, but suddenly, all of a sudden,
Spoiler alert.
yeah. Oh, thank you. Spoiler.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have to know. If we're talking about it, they're going to spoil it. Like, you have to know that.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So
You gotta get that
There will
graphic.
be
Spoiler
spoilers.
alert. Spoiler
yeah,
alert.
you're
There
right. I
will be
should. I'm gonna-
spoilers.
Okay. When we talk
Next
about the
season,
show the
next
next time, yeah, next season,
Right.
we'll have the spoiler
Yeah.
alert. All right. So all of a sudden, everything's blowing up with their relationships this episode. Molly's boyfriend's become frustrated with Molly and her work priorities. And of course, we had the bombshell with Issa. But before we talk about the bombshell with Issa, I have a question So do you guys think Andrew, Molly's boyfriend, is right for the way he feels? I'll start with East.
I mean, yeah, hell yeah. He's tired of it. I mean, and that's his perception. I think it was over when Molly didn't go to the basketball game with his brother. Like to me, it was over
Yeah.
because although I don't have a brother, like I think it was kind of clear from how the show was going that Andrew's relationship with his brother, although his brother is a hole, is important to him.
Right, and you got to be willing to do some things that you don't like for the person you
Right.
care about, right, Dr. D?
Right.
Yeah, I think that Molly and Andrew failed to really delve into culture and race before they started their relationship, before they got serious.
That's true.
You have to have these discussions, and you have to understand different people's cultures. And in certain cultures, people are not going to turn their back on their family. Their brother could be an a-hole, and they're still going to be loyal to their a-hole brother. So I really think that they should have had a discussion about, okay, what are we going to do if we get in a situation where somebody is racist towards me or someone is, insensitive toward you? How are we going to handle that? How are we going to
Well,
have
you can
each
have a
other's backs?
discussion afterwards. I mean,
Yeah.
you just have that discussion at some point. Did you have any comments, Lizzie? I
Molly
know you
is
don't
not a
didn't watch
good
it.
communicator.
She really isn't.
No, and neither is Andrew. Neither is Andrew, because there are times when he would be on the phone and she'd walk through the door and he's like, okay, gotta go, bye. And it's like, what's
That's
going on,
true. That
Andrew?
happened a lot.
What are you,
Now that you mention it, that happened a lot.
what are you hiding?
And
Yeah.
Lizzie, I know you can jump in, but I know Andrew, he was speaking his native tongue,
That's
and
another good
then
point.
and then all of a sudden stop and get off the phone. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Lizzie.
That was weird. A few times he did that.
No, I mean, and again, I have not seen one episode of season 4, so I'm just caught up through the first 3 seasons. But I've been definitely watching and consuming everyone's comments on social media and listening to what the gents have said here week after week. But it sounds like even outside of the racial differences, that Molly and her man just are not compatible. Period.
Yeah.
The way they approach relationships.
I mean, they could
Especially,
work on it. They look like a good couple to me, though. I think they could work on it.
but I mean,
I
if you're not communicating
Yeah.
and if you're not understanding or making the effort to be like, okay, that's my man's family,
Yeah.
or on the flip side for him, that's my girl. I might need to have her back. Like these are, like Dr. D said, these are conversations that you kind of want to have
Yeah.
if you're in a relationship with someone,
All right, let's
Because
jump to the bombshell.
Uh-oh.
Let's jump to the bombshell. So Issa finds out that Lawrence, right after she kind of got back with him and things are going wonderful, she finds out that Lawrence is about to be a daddy.
Woo!
So were any of you guys expecting that?
No.
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting when he came in the door and looked at her, and then started mentioning Condola. I'm like, all right, he's gonna say that they slept together, and can you forgive me? Yada yada yada. But that nuclear explosion, didn't see that coming.
Oh.
I gotta
Like,
say, I knew. Well, only reason I had an idea is because my wife kept telling me that's what's going to happen for the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I've been waiting
She
for
knew it.
it. She knew it.
She knew
So
it.
you didn't expect it, Dr. D?
I didn't expect it. I didn't. I mean, I was like, what? Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I
Yeah.
liked was the way Issa and Molly kind of came back together and became relevant to one another because, leading to that final scene where the writers had Issa and Molly kind of helping their friends search for Tiffany, I think is her name.
Yes.
played by
Yes.
Amanda Seales, and she had just had a baby. You don't like Amanda Seales? Okay.
No,
Oh,
I don't.
look,
Well,
look,
Tiffany
Amanda
has
Seals
just
or the
had a
character
baby.
Tiffany, which one? Or both?
You should right, which one?
Oh,
Okay, both.
probably. No, probably.
Well, she just had a baby, and Tiffany suddenly went missing, and so they were kind of searching for, um, and they finally found her, but it was clearly some type of seemed to be some postpartum depression. What do you guys think about that scene?
I
It's
love that
real.
the show addressed postpartum depression, because in unfortunately, so many people think that Black women don't suffer from postpartum depression, that we're superhuman and don't have feelings like everyone else. So I'm glad that they showed it and how it could manifest in Tiffany. Because you on a Lifetime movie, they show it, some psycho mom running amok, but they showed how it, can manifest. So I like that they addressed it, right?
Yeah.
Psycho mom, right? That's not how it, typically not how it is.
East, you have some thoughts?
Just to piggyback on that, like it's real. Like there are moments where you literally feel like running away. Now, I personally haven't done it, um, where you don't communicate with your spouse about what's going on, but it gets like that, where either you're overwhelmed or maybe it's not what you. I don't know, but
But
it's
postpartum is a serious
yeah,
issue, and it's real.
it
It's real, like you
it's
said.
real, and I'm like Dr. D said, I'm glad that they explored it. I think it's important to let Black women know that it's okay to let people in on what's going on, so you don't have to carry that weight.
And that it happens to us. And that it happens to us. It happens, to Black women.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. One last question
Absolutely.
before we go. So, anybody catch how they addressed the police brutality and the Karen phenomenon?
Yes.
That
Yes.
was pretty good, right? Well, the police
I'm glad that
officers
they
and
put that
the
in there.
bus driver calling the police officers over.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
miss that.
Yeah. I'm glad that they addressed that. I I Kelly, that's the character.
Yeah,
I'm
Kelly.
not I'm
Kelly's
gonna say I
hilarious.
didn't agree with how I love Kelly. She's funny. I don't agree with how she handled that
I don't either.
situation. It could have definitely gone left, but it was kind of funny
It
how the
was funny.
police officers handled it.
Yeah.
They kind of threw some humor in there. They're like, all right, we don't want any parts of it. Nah, we're
All right. Final
but
thoughts
yeah,
on
the
the final
Karen
scene.
thing.
The final scene where where Molly finally reached out to Issa, and asked to meet up. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I'm glad Molly reached out. I think she had to because you know, you know, quite honestly, Issa reached out first a couple of episodes ago,
Yeah.
and I think that they quite honestly they need each other to kind of work through these issues.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of tried to go it alone. It didn't work. And I think it's a moment of soul searching for their relationship and also internally for both of them.
Yeah.
So maybe they can kind of work out some things internally and externally with their relationship and then progress and make better decisions.
Agreed.
Yeah, because
Dr. D.
I never really understood what is the big issue anyway? Like where was the disconnect? Some people said they grew apart, but I just didn't understand why things, had to get to that point. And I think that Molly's therapist was really, really on point when she said to Molly, now listen, do you have to be right all the time? If you want to keep your relationships, you can't have to always be right.
And that's the case with a lot of relationships. That's just the case with a lot of
Um,
relationships.
I've had people ask me that question, Dr. D. Do you have to be right all the time? I'm working through that. I'm working through that. But I think also too, as women, we're hard on one another in relationships. Like we love each other hard and we have our girls back. But in the same vein, like there's a lot that goes into maintaining, especially as Black women. There's a lot that goes into maintaining a relationship. We're very critical of one another. We're very quick to call the other person out. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's not for the faint of heart at all.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's all we got. So, all right. Cookie came back right on time.
All right.
So, that's all the time we got.
Well, gingerbread man.
You like him? All right. Let's get in some last minute shout outs before we close everything out. Anybody want to shout out anybody? I know we have Mike Winter, a few other people online. Any last shout outs?
Yeah, yes. All right.
Jacqueline.
Okay. Hey, Ayana. What's up, Ayana?
Man,
Monica Alicia. Yes. Kenyatta Patterson. Who else is watching?
saw Manford.
Kelvin Thompson.
Manford.
Yeah.
What?
Manford watching. Even made a
Hey,
comment.
Michelle.
What?
Hey,
Okay.
Robin. Nia.
I don't know if Kevin Jackson got in today.
I didn't see him on today.
Hello,
He didn't make it in today.
Ella.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, he's a regular. So shout out to Kevin.
You probably have a good meal right about now. At least I'm hoping.
All right. Well, I do want to thank Rob Bertrand for asking this question and joining us in the discussion.
Yes.
We'll try to
Good
get
to
more
have
people on. So viewers, if you have some questions, just hit us up and we'll see what we can do. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. I'd like to thank Dr. D for joining us. All right. Now
Thank
don't
you.
forget to like, follow, subscribe at
This was
TLS
fun.
Live Show, www.tlsLiveShow. We love seeing all the great discussion on our Facebook page. We had a really busy week. We really appreciate that. So stay involved. Keep in touch. We'll see you Sunday, 4 p.m. And we'll actually have me, Lizzie, Jam, and Z will be back. So,
All right.
Dr. D, since you're
Be
our guest,
safe, everyone. Be safe.
you're a
Thank
guest of honor, Dr. D, I'm going to give you the last word. Whatever you'd like to say.
Keep hope alive. No, I'm just joking.
Half our audience won't even know what that means.
No, I'm so glad to be. I had a great time. This was a lot of fun. So thank you for having me on the show. Neo, East, Lizzie, thank you. And thank you for everyone who watched and made comments. Thank you. Yay.
We had a lot of fun with you, Dr. D. We're going to have you back, okay?
Thank you, Dr. D.
Absolutely. I love it.
Tigers for life.
Yeah. Yes.
Buy the book,
Wilson
too.
Tigers. I'm going to do a cheer.
Buy the book, Brianna the Bully
What's the book
Brigade.
again? Dr. D, what's the name of the book?
Brianna and the Bully Brigade.
Oh, yes,
Brigade.
my book,
All right.
Brianna and the Bully Buster Brigade.
I missed the word.
And I also wrote a book about how to talk to children about racism and diversity. It's called The Germ. Check it out. We want to raise our children to not be racist because they learn that. They learn how to be
It is learned
racist
behavior.
from their
Absolutely.
parents.
All right.
So
Yes.
if you go on Amazon, you can't look under Dr. D. You got to look under Dr.
So
Sorrell, right?
Look under
D.
Deidre A. Sorrell. Yes.
All right.
Deidre A. Sorrell. Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Dr. D. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.